I've long advocated for the Phanteks lineup of RGB products. In particular, with their most recent products, I thought it was a great way to get RGB flare into your system without having to go through a bunch of different software and worry about too much compatibility. But there is a slight problem. Color issues. Now, I don't know how well this is coming through actually on the camera. Camera and RGB lighting is not always the easiest thing to work around, but I do want to make it very clear. These things worked perfectly fine for about the first 7 months. Now, these are the Digital Halos Lux rings, and I'll try to get some extra footage that kind of gives you a better idea of how they're failing and why they're failing. It's most obvious with certain colors like this one. This is green right here, but the whole rest of the ring, let's see, green here. It's in the corners too. The corners have a green tint to them as opposed to like a cyan color. It's also noticeable on the white because it's actually yellow instead of being white. And the color was accurate at one point because this entire build back here was all in white coloring. And while there is a little bit of a hue of blue sometimes, with these products, it looked pretty good. It was very accurate as far as I could tell. And in conjunction with Kyle at Bitwit looking at the new neon RGB strips that they've put out recently that had an end that wasn't quite showing the color at all, it does start to make you wonder if there's a little bit of a quality control issue here with Phanteks. If you remember, when I was doing the Halos versus the Halos Lux video way back when, I actually had a regular Halos that had kind of the same issue with the coloring. The 3 of the LEDs weren't working properly, no matter what color you went with. Now this one's a little weird because, again, it was working fine. Blue looks normal other than a couple of LEDs being out, and red and orange are perfectly fine. But the rest of the colors don't match up, they don't work. And it's kind of disappointing because, again, this is a $20 product. And the allure of Phanteks Halos products is still there. It allows you to take any fan that you want and make it RGB, and that's a big plus for this product. But if it's having an issue with quality, which, again, I've now seen 4 of these rings run into this issue, it did, however, give me a chance to look at something else, and that is the PCCooler lineup of RGB fans. Kyle over at Bitwit had looked at PCCooler fans a few months back, maybe even last year. It's all blur at this point. It's been so long since I've even thought about doing any kind of content. And he found them to be pretty adequate. The RGB lighting is pretty limited, but they are compatible with motherboard software, at least with Aura. I'm not sure about the rest of it. They do have the 3-pin header, and I do believe they come with a ton of accessories. It's a really good, solid product. And I decided for about $35, you get 3 fans, a controller, and the controller's a little awkward. It's actually hanging out of the front of my computer because I didn't want to attach them to the header because I wanted to see what it was like, and I just have never gone back and redone it. And they're not quite as powerful as EK Vardar fans, which is what I had in the top of this system. So I took out the Vardar fans. I took that's what these rings were attached to. They were attached to the Vardar fans. Took those out, went ahead and put in the new PCCooler fans, and I've noticed absolutely no difference in performance. And that is because I'm obviously running a custom loop system. It's not going to need as much in terms of airflow to perform, but there's been no degradation, there's been no issue. They've been running for about 4 months now or so. I actually emailed Phanteks about these back in October, and they told me to send them in. I didn't do it because I wanted to show that there could be a slight issue with the Halos rings. And again, it's unfortunate. I don't really know what spurred it. I happened to notice when I wanted to change the color scheme, and I noticed that I couldn't get the color to look right, and that's because a bunch of the LEDs were off. And now it's not the same LEDs in each situation. So like I said with this one, it's the corners. Here it's kind of the corner, but then it's also the middle. There's a lot more on this one. And this one is actually the worst. This one's got about all these, and this guy up here are all. So it's not the same LEDs in each ring. And I don't know if it's because I was kind of switching back and forth between using the motherboard header and the actual controller that, Phanteks provides. But at some point, something went terribly wrong. So I did want to kind of put that out there before you committed to buying these things, that this could be something you run into. As I said, I've had 4 of these now that have been an issue of the batch, but I've also had a bunch that didn't. The rear fan in the main build, no issue. and it's also a Digital Halos Lux. And it doesn't seem to matter if it's the regular RGB or the digital RGB, it just is something that seems to happen. Could just be I have a bad batch, could be something more significant, could just be luck of the draw, could have been something I did. But it is something to look out for. I still think the Halos products are pretty solid. I still think they provide a pretty good value. But if you are looking for actual fans and you have a bit of a budget for about $35 or so, the power cooler fans are pretty solid. They will do the job. You're not going to notice too much of a difference. Like I said, my idle temperatures didn't change at all. Still very much about 30 to 35 degrees Celsius, depending on the ambient room temperature. And my low temperatures still in gaming don't exceed 70, and that's with a 5 gigahertz overclock on my 8700K. So they've done a very good job. They don't ramp up. They're pretty silent even at their highest RPM. Now, I was going to look eventually at the Phanteks Prism RGB products, but there's some funny stuff going on there. I actually went to leave a review on them on Amazon and I wasn't able to. There's suspicious activity. I know they were giving these out to a heavy discount to a lot of reviewers and a lot of people out who buy things off of Amazon. Kind of makes me not want to actually even do a video on them. I may use them here in the near future. I am thinking of taking the Evolve X and doing some switching around of builds. I'm looking at about 3 different cases possibly to move this build into. The Phanteks 719, also known as the Phanteks Lux 2. It's a much bigger full tower case that allows for up to 2 systems and a lot of water cooling support, but is limited in hard drive space, which could be a thing down the road. The Lee PC011 Dynamic XL, really like the way that one looks. Not completely sold on going that route. There are limitations there. And then there's a new case from Thermaltake that I've also had the thought of looking into. It's another kind of a full tower, more for custom water cooling builds. I'm not entirely sold on that one as well, but I'm still leaning towards the Phanteks 719. The real reason I'm looking to do this is my first build, which is in an old Phanteks Evolve ATX tempered glass case. Isn't great for dual radiator water cooling support, and I have 2 hard drives sitting in the bottom of that build that are just kind of floating on each other. It's not a significant issue, but I would like to alleviate that. So really the thought is I could just buy a case for that, like a Fractal Design Meshify S2, which has good hard drive support in the back, and just move that build in there. But I'm also kind of getting that itch. You know, people who've built PCs know what I'm talking about. You just get that itch to do something different, do something new. And I'm kind of getting that itch again with this system. So kind of wanting to move this build back here into something new, put the first system into that case and go from there, but we shall see. I also need to drain the loop at some point. It's been a year since I've built this computer into this form, and I do need to do some draining of the loop. So that's kind of also influencing my decision. If I have to drain it and I want to move it, I might as well do it all in one fell swoop. In any case, I'm not sure that I'm going to be doing a ton of videos going forward. I did want to go over the issue that I've run into with these guys and kind of get that out there, that maybe there's an issue with Phanteks RGB products, but it could just be bad luck. I still think they're a great option if you have fans that you prefer that aren't available in RGB flavor and you want to add that little bit of color to it. Again, RGB isn't just rainbow puke like everybody wants to hate on it for. It's great for coming up with custom themes and ideas, and I personally think that it's much easier to have it and turn it off if you don't like it than to not have it at all. But that's going to do it. I know it's been a while. I wanted to get something up. I had an issue I wanted to go over. It's pretty minor. At the end of the day, just buy regular RGB fans, be done with it. But I did like the versatility of Phanteks because, again, not tied to a specific ecosystem. They work with just about every motherboard out there that isn't EVGA, and they just look nice when they work right. They work with their own, you can either use the starter kit like I've done, or you can use them with motherboard control if you have a digital header. It's very versatile. Just really hope that this isn't something that's actually a widespread issue. So thanks again for being patient with me. I know that I don't do a lot of videos and I don't know when I'm gonna do another one. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, you know what to do. If you didn't, you also know what to do. Be critical, be constructive. Let me know what I did wrong, how I could do better, and I will see you guys in the next one.